stories above ground, we're good, right? All right, we're going to get started in a minute. So if you have a cell phone, well, no, if you sit over there, then I will have my neck always going this way. You can stay there. That kind of gives me a balance. Are we on? Okay, so for all those of you on live stream, please ignore everything you just heard. No, I'm kidding. It doesn't really matter. We're just discussing the seating arrangements in the room. All right, shalom, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday night Torah Study. Okay, 3 people clapped. There we go. Okay, now 4 people clapped. Okay, so, all right, awesome. Welcome to Tuesday night Torah Study. If you're online, live, we want to welcome you as well. This is sponsored by MTOI. And I will be your host, Rabbi Steve, here. And as we go through this week's Torah portion, and this, I just ask, especially those of you on the live stream, that you be respectful and understand that this is a congregational / ministerial group called MTOI's Bible Study, Torah Study, and you are a guest. Okay, now if you're coming on a regular basis, well then you're more than a guest, but even then we do ask that you would be respectful, as if you were sitting in the room, knowing that you're at an event that normally would not necessarily be public, but this is public. So please, Manny is on the live stream desk. Be respectful of any guidance or instruction. I believe Kurt's probably on there as well. And if our admins ask you to cease and desist or to be respectful in some way, please follow their instructions. Okay? After all, one of the things that we are learning to do, according to the scripture, is to be submissive to authority in its various forms, and to be respectful of each other, okay? So just wanted to make sure we threw that out there as well. Okay, so today what we're going to do is our Torah study. Again, a reminder of the format. So we're going to read the portion, okay, and then we're going to discuss the portion. In between, somewhere along the way, probably right at the beginning and then in the middle, I might remind us about some announcements, upcoming things as we're going to be going through that, just to remind everyone. Now, I didn't bring my announcement sheet up here, but I think it's been the same announcements for a while, so I think I'll remember pretty much what we're doing. Okay, good. All right, that being said, we always start with prayer time. So Owen's going to come up and grab the mic. And so if you have a prayer need here locally, or if you're on live stream, Manny will make note of it. Okay, please go ahead and give us your prayer needs and or praise reports. Again, we're not going to read all of the backstories and details. We're looking for the most urgent of things. Because, quite frankly, we all should have praise reports today. Everybody should be able to raise their hand and have a praise report. I'm not saying you should, but I'm saying we should all have something we're thankful for that we've seen, even just the fact that we're still around and above ground. Okay? All right? Some people have a lot of rules about what makes a day a good day. And Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker, did a seminar one time, and he asked the one guy, well, what do you need to feel like you're having a good, successful day? And the guy gave a long list of stuff. Then he asked the next guy, and the guy said, every day above ground is a successful day. So he always felt successful. Or the other guy only felt successful if he had this much money and this many businesses and this much whatever, Okay, so we have time to continue to change, grow, transform, etc. every day that we're above ground. Okay, so anyway. So we're going to go ahead and have the mic go around. We're going to begin with my wife, Rebitz and Julie. And then if you're on the live stream, Manny's writing them down. We'll go through that. All right. Go ahead. Start us off. Whoops.
Okay. So I would like to ask prayers for a successful school year for MTOI Academy. The teenagers are starting tomorrow. The high schools are starting. So just keep that in your prayers. Thank you.
All right, so we did have a very exciting launch to the MTOI Academy this week. Okay, we are phasing it in. We had Monday and Tuesday. Today was, the last 2 days has been for the younger children, up through middle school, and then the high schoolers are tomorrow. And so we're excited about them going into their first day of classes Wednesday and Thursday. Some of the parents are more excited than the children, probably. No, the children are all very excited to start their day. And they start bright and early tomorrow at 8:50. And don't expect me to be there. Okay, anyway. I will be tardy. But I will check in on you guys at some point, just so you know. I will be checking in on you. Okay. Next person. Okay, Rabbi Tom.
Thank you. Well, I do have several praise reports. I got up this morning and saw the top of the grass instead of the roots. That's one. But the other one is we got a different vehicle, a better vehicle. And we went to Murfreesboro and got stuck in a 2-hour traffic jam. It didn't overheat. The AC worked. And I'm getting a new scooter from the VA. And I'm getting a new lift. And then if MTOI wants it, they can have the other lift. And also, I'm just thankful that I'm here. I'm alive. I'm alive at 75.
There you go.
Hallelujah.
And by the way, you look more alive at 75 than I remember seeing you at 73. So you're doing great. You're doing great. Things have improved and you're doing great. All right, who's next? Okay, Dale. Now looking at Dale, Craig, and Rabbi Tom, apparently I'm wearing the wrong shirt. Everybody's wearing the green one. Okay.
I just want to
Wait. Kurt's got on the... Kurt's got black, and then Michelle. Okay, so we got 3-3. And since I'm the rabbi, it outweighs all of you, so it's good. Black wins. Okay. Okay, Dale, go ahead.
I just wanted to praise Abba for the trials I've been going through the last couple of weeks. It's actually making me handle things a lot better, and it's helped me deal with my frustration and anger that I have sometimes. And I just want to praise Abba because it's working.
Awesome. It's awesome when we can praise Abba in our trials. Okay, who's next? Rick?
Yeah, praise Yah, we're getting settled in here. Got driver's license today, got Tennessee license plates, and cars registered and all that stuff, so we're feeling more at home. Prayer request, I don't have an update on him, but on just keeping Brother Kevin shut in prayer. He's still in Hershey Medical Center as far as I know. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Rick. And we're glad that you're now more officially here. I'm impressed with people that do that. I mean, I'm usually the one who's in all kinds of trouble because it takes me like a year to change over my license and stuff, even though you're supposed to do it quickly. So I'm impressed with you guys that kind of right away get that thing done. All right, who's up? Chloe.
I praise Abba that I am here and in this school.
All right, she likes being in the school. Fantastic. Yeah, I saw you in the school yesterday when I came in and checked on you guys. Excellent. Okay, Owen?
Thank you, Rabbi. Prayer request for the body, that we would hear and do the instructions that will be shared to us from the Almighty through our teacher, so that we would be obedient children.
Amen. Appreciate that very much. Okay, anybody else here? All right, go ahead and bring that over to the live stream desk. While you're going over, I'll add a few things really quickly here. Okay, first of all, I had a really rough day. I don't know what happened, but last night and the night before, I got slammed with allergies or something. Now, thankfully, I can breathe today. Yesterday, not so good at all, and the day before. I mean, I was talking like this mostly, and my nose was very clogged. And I do that voice sometimes, so my wife wasn't sure if I was goofing off or real, but no, I say, no, that's just the best I can talk. And some of you called yesterday and got counsel, and that's what you heard when I was trying to counsel you, because I couldn't breathe through my nose. And I didn't realize how much you need to be able to breathe through your nose to even drink, like to swallow something. So I couldn't even, it was terrible. So and if you sleep with a BiPAP or a CPAP, you need to be able to breathe or you can't use the mask. And so I had to try to figure out a way through NyQuil and decongestants and essential oils to get myself able to breathe. Did a lot of lavender, lemon, peppermint, or whatever. And by about 3 a.m, I finally could breathe enough to put the mask on and sleep. And I slept pretty good both nights. But I woke up this morning, it's a little bit better. I mean, I can breathe at least, you know. So anyway, because that was pretty miserable. So I praise Yah that was a very short-term problem. Hopefully kind of works itself out because it was just awful. Okay. I stalled long enough, Manny. Hopefully you're ready. Okay, he's still stalling. I can stall some more.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on here. Tom
Okay.
Lasardo, Unspoken Prayers. Earth Steward, praise Abba, has shown me how to conquer the latest challenge in my life. Praise Elric is doing very well being homeschooled. Laura Powell, praise speech therapy got approved. Walk softly upon the earth. Praise my husband's car sold and the memories of it go with it. Happy, happy. Charles Davis, please pray for us here. AC is out and it's 90 inside. Prayers that it gets fixed soon. Chino Man, praise Yah, we are doing 1% better today than yesterday.
Amen.
Liz, praise report, I'm so thankful for being here. Jack Oxenrider, praising Abba for the opportunity to refuse to meet a man for business on Saturday Shabbat. Earl Lee, many unspoken, and as best I can, thank you, Abba, for them. Janice Schreiber, praise that my car issues today seem to have been an easy and not expensive fix. Robert Wyatt, prayer for Olivia, been sick yesterday and today. Sophia, praise baby Trinity on her first birthday coming the 25th. She has the medical issues and many surgeries since birth that Yah has brought her through with healing and health. Tom Lasardo, praise Yahweh, we're above ground. Nikolai, praise Yah for the test we have been given and prayers for the help with the wife and his businesses. Shaquez, many unspoken, and praising Abba for healing and growth. Claudia, praising Abba for his love, compassion, protection, provision, and all that he is. Tara, prayers for my wonderful husband to be moved by the Ruach to become Torah observant, and prayers for me to become the jewel my husband requires and not the thorn. Mary, please pray for my children and grandchildren in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Let's see. Linda, prayer request for a friend for my father. He has 2 divergent types of cancer, and the doctor said he has a survival rate of 50%. Cheryl, prayers for the family who lost their wife/mom last night to cancer. R. Clark, prays for the trials that we are experiencing with the start of our business and that we continue to persevere and see his will be done. April, I thank Abba every morning that he lets me wake up and to learn more and that he led me to MTOI, unspoken prayers as well. Charles Davis, prayers for Aaron Murray. Last I heard he was in a lot of pain. Tony, prayer request. I'm currently in the hospital visiting a young lady who is sick. Please pray for a speedy recovery for this young lady and many unspokens. Claudia, prayer request for healing in the digestive system. Denise, I praise Adonai for health, strength, and awakening of his truth. Praise Yah, the witness, praise Yah for my truck's transmission getting fixed. New work projects ahead, praise Yah. Early again, praise for Roy in North Ireland as his family, and for his family and the Zimmerman family. Laura Vassal's prayer for a coworker who is being treated for cancer and pneumonia plus unspoken. Praise Abba for my family accepting the following Torah and loving me. And many other praises for MTOI and this Torah Study Live.
Amen. How many we got on there? 180. Wow, 187. We used to on the Adobe Connect get maybe 127 or 150, so 180. That's fabulous. So we're reaching more people, which is awesome. And we're very excited about that because that's part of our mandate is just to make this stuff available to more people, okay? And that's fantastic. So, and I expect it'll probably be over 200 by the time we actually get into this as people are kind of strolling in a little bit late. We're just getting started. And we also have those that know that we start off with prayer time, so they know that we're not going to get started with the readings until a little bit into this. Okay. Just real quick, so I want us, as part of the praise, we had very, very good leadership meetings. I'll mention this again on Shabbat. The leadership meetings went very, very well. Please continue to pray for those in South Africa. Things there are not really doing any better. There is a possibility that they might be able to go to Uruguay. Apparently, Uruguay has a non-restricted availability for them to move there. So we're hoping that some of the people there will be able to get their things in order enough to maybe go there. And then we can maybe establish a community there where we can then go visit there. So that's, if they can end up in South America there, that'd be great. So they've just found that out. That's a new thing that, because the problem with South Africa is not that they can't get out, it's that somebody has to take them. And the U.S. won't. Most places won't. They're being very strict about immigration, especially from places where there's conflict. Okay? And I understand that policy, because that policy is designed to keep us safe. But there are those that are genuinely fleeing some sort of persecution, and others that are just claiming to be fleeing persecution. And we really need to have prayer that our government will figure out a way to vet that out, so that those that are fleeing whatever country they're in, but they're legitimately coming out of persecution, that they have a way to get here, And so the South African brethren are hanging in there. They're doing well. Otherwise, they already have their plans for Sukkot, and they're doing things that they can where they are. And, their groups are growing even in spite of all of that. They're little by little, they're growing. We now have 1, 2, 3 active groups and one gentleman that's kind of part of leadership, but he's kind of by himself at the moment, that are a part of that. In the Pretoria, Johannesburg area, in Cape Town. So there's 2 kind of near, and then basically in the Pretoria, Johannesburg area, 1 in Cape Town, and then 1 further around towards what's called the George area. And so, this is one of those things that, it's just, it has to be whatever Abba's planning, because I went once, almost 2 years ago in November. Could have gone more than once had the thing not turned to be as dangerous as it is, although there are some people that have visited there and done seminars and done other things for businesses and other type of things and have been safe enough. But it's a risky thing. It's a dangerous country, okay? And you never know when the match is really going to hit and ignite the whole thing. But had I been able to go, and maybe someday it'll calm down enough so I could, there was a bunch of people that really were starting to come together and coalesce. They just needed what we talk about all the time, structure. They needed a leader or leadership team to bring a structure to develop in, because growth doesn't happen well in chaos. Okay, growth happens really well and flourishes in structure. Okay, look at families without structure and how it affects the children, and families with structure and how that affects the children. Okay? Of course, you could have bad structure too, and that doesn't work well either. All right, so anyway, so keep the South African guys in prayer. Also, we had a very good full meeting with the full leadership council. Covered a lot of really good things. Was very, very, I was blessed to have such good and incredibly outstanding men to work with. Okay, you should be very proud of the gentlemen that are in the leadership council. And for those of you that are on the live stream, these are not people that I hand pick. Okay, they qualify simply by being a part of our group and leading something. Okay, so they're not like handpicked by me because I think they'll agree with me or this or that or the other thing. They qualify by an objective qualification, not subjective. All right, they're all leading something, small fellowship, bigger group, and they participate in the vision of trying to work together to serve the body effectively. Okay? And so really, really very blessed. Tremendous, tremendous guys I work with. And you should all be praising Yah for that, for the team. There's a great team. And these guys take one Sunday a month. It used to be 2, but now we're doing one Sunday a month. And we spend about 3, 4, almost 4 hours in these meetings. And if you count the South Africa meeting, we'll make it more like 6 hours. And so, while you guys are all enjoying your Sunday, your one day off during the week, and you don't have your Shabbat, but you have your day where you can do your shopping and do your this and go out and play, I'm in meetings all day. And that's not for you to give me empathy or be impressed with me or everything, but just understand that's part of the serving. Okay? And it's not just me, it's all these other leaders, and we're here working to try to be effective in serving you on behalf of the Father. Okay? To serve what the body needs. So, really good meeting. And anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything that came out of the meeting I need to announce. Not at this time. Okay. So I want to make sure that we add that to the praise and the prayers. And so I don't think we have anything else. So let's go ahead and get somebody to go ahead and open us in prayer and pray for the praise and the prayer requests. Okay. Do you have the mic? Where's the mic? Okay, bring it around here. We'll let Kirk do it. You got his hand up. And he's going to pray for the praise and prayer requests as well as pray for opening up the study.
Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King, our Almighty Creator, the King of Israel. Father, we just come before you to pray for all the prayer needs and just lift up the praises to you. And if it be in your will to grant us those things. And Father, we just ask that you guide this study and that your words are our words here. And because we're searching after you and your righteousness, Father. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay. So a couple of quick announcements. All right, just reminders. So let's see. We have these Tuesday studies every week, just for those who want to know, except during the feasts. Okay, so we'll have them every week. Also, we live stream our service. There may be people watching this for the first time that we need to know that we do live stream our service on Shabbat, Eastern Time, 1 o'clock p.m. Okay, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube, just like this is. And so you can find us every Shabbat on YouTube, and as well as on Tuesday nights. Also coming up in the near future, that was another praise, by the way. I think the ladies, the men's class and the women's class went very well this week. So that was very good. I'm also looking forward to more classes I've got in mind for all of you. I've got a long list of things, and when we can get settled in, we'll have all kinds of great classes. Maybe we'll do some of them at the feast, some of them here. So I'm excited to do some things. Let's see, what else do we have coming up on the calendar? Coming up, Labor Day weekend, that Sunday and Monday, we're going to have our MTOI Academy garage sale, so to speak, or block sale. So we're going to have people bring stuff to sell out here. You are responsible for your own stuff, though. Please, you have to be here or have somebody that you've arranged to watch your stuff, label it, price it, sell it, etc. Proceeds to go to the Academy. We do have a lot of people in the Academy on benevolence, and so it'll help quite a bit. So we appreciate that. We do want to try to make the Academy available to anybody that wants to be in it, whether they can afford it or not. That way they can afford to pay what they can pay, and we can subsidize the rest, because we do not want the children turned away. Okay? We try to do that with the feast as well. We try to not turn anybody away. By the way, with the Sukkot, well, I'll mention that in a second. So then after the garage sale, then we have Trumpets and Atonement. That's on September 30th and October 9th. Okay? Trumpets and Atonement, and then Sukkot, which is the 13th through the 22nd. At least that's how we're going to be keeping it, because we have to get there the day before to start, as well as finish after the last day. So the holy day really goes the 14th to the 21st. Those 2 Mondays are the holy days, and we'll be getting there on Sunday and leaving on Tuesday. We have over 220 people coming already. All right? We're getting probably 5 to 10 people a day, sending in paperwork or registering or contacting us. We're getting lots of paperwork in. If you have not gotten your paperwork in already, shame on all of you. You should be shamed and embarrassed, and we'll put you out in a pub. No, I'm kidding. Just get your paperwork in as soon as you can. We are wanting to be able to have a good head count that we can work with, especially if you have children that are going to be in the children's program, so that my wife can work on the right amount of crafts and materials and things for the participants. Do you know how many we have at this point? Or are you going to be telling her this week? Okay, we have about 40 YM2Y children in there already. Okay, for the program, okay? I think you'll get a list later this week with the initial count, okay? But really excited about that. So, and look, it's always exciting to, and nervous at the same time going to a new property. Okay, it's, we don't, know exactly how it's going to go. But every time we switch properties, it's always worked out. So I'm not worried about it from that point of view, but it's just a little, what we don't know what's going to happen, and we're excited. But that's part of what Abba does with his people, right? He has you go through stuff you don't know what's going to happen, and you'll have to just see, and you have to be okay with it and excited about it. So that's going to be good. All right, so that's going to cover it for the announcements. Today's Torah portion is brought to you by, feels like it should be like a sponsored thing or something, Today's Torah portion is Eikev. Eikev. What does Eikev mean? Because, okay? So it's Deuteronomy 7:12 through 11:25, okay? 7:12 through 11:25. So it's always interesting when these things don't start or end at the beginning of a chapter, but they're trying to cover some sort of an idea or thought in a complete way as best they can. And by the way, some of you may be familiar with the Jewish pattern of having the different readings that they do, and they have only a certain number of them. And they're broken up into sometimes only a verse or two, or sometimes a lot of verses. And there's reasons for the way they do it. I try to break up the readings into somewhat complete ideas or thoughts so that the person doesn't end in mid-idea or mid-event that they're trying to describe. All right. Now, this is one of my favorite Torah portions. Can anyone guess why? Because it has Deuteronomy 8:2 and 10:12 in it. That's why. Okay. So I may read both of those verses, and we'll see how that goes. And so I may just stick myself in there, not because I want to, but because others have said, we think that, Rabbi, you should read those. So, okay, I'll do that. What was that? I'll bless myself. Okay, no. No, Rabbi Tom can come up and do it. No. I'm only going to read a verse or two, so it's not a big deal. I don't need to be blessed. All right. So there's 9 readings today, so I need the chairs filled up for 9, maybe 8 readings. In case I read one reading, I might read one. So we need at least 8, possibly 9 people up here. Okay? Well, Rabbi Tom's already up here, so then I need 7, possibly 8 people up here, because Rabbi Tom's already included, because he's already up here. I don't know. Okay, so I'll split that one with you. The second one. Okay? Well, that makes it easier, because then you and I can split that, and it'll work just fine. Okay. See, that'll work perfectly. All right. And what we'll do then is I'll start with you, make it a little easier. No, we're going to do the second one together, and we'll work that out. Okay. Now, all right, so for those of you on live stream, and those of you here, but you already know, but those on live stream, so what we're going to do is we're going to read the Torah portion. After we read the Torah portion, so while we're reading it, you should be, have a pen, have some paper, write some notes, mark down some things that you either A, want to point out as something that this hit you, maybe a comment or something, or if you have a question about something that you read or you hear read, and you say, I always wondered about that. But make sure that the main point we're looking for here is we're looking to see ourselves in the Torah portion. Like, what can you see that can help you in your journey? Can you see something that people are doing in here that you also do that you shouldn't? Can you see something in here that people are doing that you're not doing that you should? Can you see, what are you going to glean out of this? Okay? That's what we're looking for. Now, I know a lot of people look for different things when they do Torah portions. Sometimes they're always looking for Messiah in the Torah portion. There's nothing wrong with that. We have been looking all year long, though, for what can we take out of it that we could apply today in our lives. Because Paul rightly teaches us that this stuff was all written as examples for us so that we can be encouraged in our walk to learn the lessons from other people's experiences. And so we have the written down experiences of the children of Israel, and we can glean out of their decisions, the good ones and the bad ones. Okay? So I encourage you to take some notes, because then after we read, we will discuss, and based on that, when we get to the discussion part, we'll be able to have your comments or questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask each one to come up one at a time. When I call on you, you'll come up. I will read a blessing over you, and then you will, I'll tell you what verses you're reading, and then we'll get that covered from there. We're going to begin with Rabbi Tom, so come on up. That's good enough right there. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rabbi Tom, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Rabbi Tom's going to start us off in chapter 7 and verse 12, and he's going to read us through the end of the chapter.
And it shall be, because you hear these right rulings and shall guard and do them, that Yahweh your Elohim shall guard with you the covenant and the loving commitment which he swore to your fathers, and shall love you and bless you and increase you, and shall bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land, your grain and your new wine and your oil, the increase of your cattle and the offspring of your flock, in the land which he swore to your fathers to give you. Blessed are you above all peoples, There is not going to be a barren man or a barren woman among you, or among your livestock. And Yahweh shall turn away from you all sickness, and put on you none of the evil diseases of Mitzrayim, which you have known, but he shall put them on all those who hate you. And you shall consume all the peoples whom Yahweh your Elohim is delivering over you to you. Your eye shall not pardon them, and do not serve their mighty ones, for that is a snare to you. When you say in your heart, these nations are greater than I am unable to drive them out, do not be afraid of them. Remember well what Yahweh your Elohim did to Pharaoh and to all Mitzrayim, the great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders, the strong hand and the outstretched arm, by which Yahweh your Elohim brought you out. Yahweh your Elohim does so to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. And Yahweh your Elohim also sends the hornet among them, until those who are left hide themselves from you are destroyed. Who hide themselves from you are destroyed. Do not be afraid of them, for Yahweh your Elohim, the great and awesome El, is in your midst. And Yahweh your Elohim shall drive out these nations before you, little by little. You are not allowed to destroy them all at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. But Yahweh your Elohim shall deliver them over to you and destroy them with a great destruction until they are consumed. And he shall give their sovereigns into your hand, and you shall destroy their name from under the heavens. No one is going to be able to stand against you until you have destroyed them. The carved images of their mighty ones you are to burn with fire. Do not covet the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it for yourselves, lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to Yahweh your Elohim. And do not bring an abomination into your house, lest you be accursed like it. Otherly load it, and otherly hate it, for it is accursed.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi Tom. Okay. So we're going to do this in a little bit of a split. Okay, so as many of you know, one of my favorite verses, or one of the verses that is the foundation of what Abba's been using me to do, has been in this next section in the beginning of chapter 8. Also, my wife has had quite an affinity for and will be teaching at Sukkot the 7 species, which are also mentioned in this next section in chapter 8. So I'm going to start off and read the few verses that really, the first 2 verses anyway, that are much deep to my heart, and I'm going to pass the microphone over to her to let her continue as we read from verses 1 through 10, okay? But I'm going to ask a blessing. No, I'll do it. That's okay. I'll bless over her, because any blessing that's over her, it's over her and her family. That includes me. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rebbe and Julie, who's come out to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, I'm going to begin us here. We're going to read verses 1 through 10. Verse 1, guard to do every command which I command you today, that you might live, and shall increase and go in, and shall possess the land of which Yahweh swore to your fathers. And you shall remember that Yahweh your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, to prove you to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. 3 through 10.
And he humbled you and let you suffer hunger and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh. Your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Thus you shall know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh your Elohim disciplines you. Therefore you shall guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him. For Yahweh your Elohim is bringing you into a good land, a land of streams of water, of fountains and springs that flow out of valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land in which you eat bread without scarcity, in which you do not lack at all, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you dig copper. And you shall eat and be satisfied, and shall bless Yahweh your Elohim for the good land which he has given you.
Amen. Thank you. It was the first time I think I've ever done a little tag team deal on a Torah portion reading. It worked. It worked. All right, Dale. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Dale who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Dale's going to take us now from verse 11 to 20.
Be on guard lest you forget Yahweh your Elohim by not guarding his commands and his right rulings and his laws which I command you today. Lest you eat and shall be satisfied, and build lovely houses and shall dwell in them. And your herds and your flocks increase, and your silver and your gold are increased, and all that you have is increased. That your heart then becomes lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Mizraim from the house of bondage, who led you through that great and awesome wilderness, fiery serpents and scorpions and thirst, where there was no water, who brought water for you out of the flinty rock, who fed you in the wilderness with manna which your fathers did not know, in order to humble you and to try you, to do you good in the end. You then shall say in your heart, my power and the strength of my hand have made me this wealth. But you shall remember Yahweh your Elohim, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, in order to establish his covenant which he swore to your fathers as it is today. And it shall be, if you by any means forget Yahweh your Elohim and follow other mighty ones and serve them and bow yourself to them, I have warned you this day that you shall certainly perish. Like the nations which Yahweh is destroying before you, so you are to perish because you did not obey the voice of Yahweh your Elohim.
Sorry, I was writing notes. Awesome job, Dale. Thank you. Come on up, Betty. All right, I think this is like the first time you've gotten to read with us. Awesome. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Betty, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, take us into chapter 9 and read verses 1 through 14.
Okay. Hear, O Israel, you are passing over the Jordan today to go to Desposa's nation. How do I say that? Desposa's nations greater and stronger than yourself, cities great and walled up to the heavens, a people great and tall, the descendants of the Anakim, whom you know and of whom you've heard it said, who does stand before the descendants of Anak? And you shall know today that Yahweh your Elohim is he who is passing over before you as a consuming fire. He does destroy them and subdue them before you. So you shall dispossess them and destroy them quickly, as Yahweh has said to you. Do not think in your heart, after Yahweh your Elohim has driven them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness, Yahweh has brought me to possess this land. But it is because of the wrong of these nations that Yahweh is driving them out from before you. It is not because of your righteousness or your uprightness of the heart that you go in to possess the land, but because of the wrong of these nations that Yahweh your Elohim drives them out from before you. In order to establish the word of Yahweh, swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. And you shall know that Yahweh your Elohim is not giving you this good land to possess because of your righteousness, for you are a stiff-necked people. Remember, do not forget how you provoked to wrath Yahweh your Elohim in the wilderness. From the day that you came out of the land of Mitzrayim until you came to this place, you have been rebellious against Yahweh. Even in Horeb you made Yahweh wroth, so that Yahweh was enraged with you to destroy you. When I went up into the mountains to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant which Yahweh made with you, Then I stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. I did not eat bread, nor did I drink water. And then Yahweh gave me the 2 tablets of stone written with the finger of Elohim. And on them were all the words which Yahweh had spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And it came to be at the end of 40 days and 40 nights that Yahweh gave me the 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant. Then Yahweh said to me, "Arise, go down quickly from here, for your people whom you brought out of Mitzrayim have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them. They have made themselves a molded image." And Yahweh spoke to me, saying, "I have seen this people, and look, they are a stiff-necked people. Leave me alone, so that I destroy them and blot out their name from under the heavens, and make you a nation stronger and greater than they."
All right, thank you, Betty. Mr. Rick. You going to read out of yours? Okay, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rick, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Rick, you're going to take us from verse 15 to the end of the chapter.
So I turned and came down from the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I looked and saw that you had sinned against Yahweh your Elohim, and had made for yourselves a molded calf. You had quickly turned aside from the way which Yahweh had commanded you. And I took the 2 tablets and threw them out of my 2 hands and broke them before your eyes. And I fell down before Yahweh, as at the first. 40 days and 40 nights I did not eat bread, and I did not drink water, because of all of your sins which you committed in doing evil in the eyes of Yahweh, to provoke him. For I was afraid of the displeasure and rage with which Yahweh was wroth with you to destroy you. But Yahweh listened to me that time once more. And Yahweh was very enraged with Aharon to destroy him. So I prayed for Aharon at that time also. And I took your sin, the calf which you had made, and burned it with fire, and crushed it, and ground it very small, until it was fine as dust. And I threw its dust into the stream that came down from the mountain. And at Taberah, and at Massah, and at Kibroth Hattaawah, you made Yahweh wroth. And when Yahweh sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, "Go up and possess the land which I have given you," then you rebelled against the mouth of Yahweh your Elohim, and you neither trusted him nor listened to his voice. You have been rebellious against Yahweh from the day that I knew you. So I fell down before Yahweh the 40 days and 40 nights. For I fell down because Yahweh had said he would destroy you. And I prayed to Yahweh and said, "O Master Yahweh, do not destroy your people and your inheritance, whom you have ransomed in your greatness, whom you have brought out of Mitzrayim with a strong hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. Do not look on the stubbornness of this people, or on their wrong, or on their sin, lest the land from which you brought us should say, because Yahweh was not able to bring them to the land which he promised them, and because he hated them, he has brought them out to kill them in the wilderness. And they are your people and your inheritance, whom you brought out by your great power and by your outstretched arm."
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Rick. Okay, next up is Chuck. It only hits me, it might not hit you, but see, I know, and not a lot of you guys who are watching on the live stream might know this, but it really moves me to see people come up here that only a few weeks ago or months ago were actually not living here. But we're on that side of the camera, and so it really just touches me, seeing Rick, and then Betty, and then Chuck, so. Now, I'm not including my wife, she was living here, so that's it. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Chuck, who's come up here to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Chuck's going to take us now into chapter 10 and read the first 11 verses.
And at that time Yahweh said to me, hew for yourself 2 tablets of stone like the first, and come up to me on the mountain. And you shall make yourself an ark of wood. Then I write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke, and you shall put them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood, hewed 2 tablets of stone like the first, and went up the mountain with the 2 tablets in my hand. And he wrote on the tablets, according to the first writing, the 10 words which Yahweh had spoken to you in the mountain, from the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. Then Yahweh gave them to me. And I turned and came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark which I had made. And they are there, as Yahweh commanded me. Now the children of Israel set out from the wells of Beni Hakwan to Morish. Aaron died there, and he was buried there. And Eleazar, his son, became priest in his place. From there, they set out to Kodok, and from Kodok to Yadbatah, a land of rivers of water. And at the time, Yahweh separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, to stand before Yahweh, to serve him, and to bless in his name to this day. Therefore Levi has no portion nor inheritance with his brothers. Yahweh is his inheritance, as Yahweh your Elohim promised him. And I stayed in the mountain for 40 days and 40 nights. And Yahweh heard me at that time also. And Yahweh chose not to destroy you. And Yahweh said to me, arise, go before the people to set out, and let them go in and possess the land which I swore to their fathers to give them.
Amen. Amen. Okay, Trisha, come up. I'm going to read the first 2 verses, and you'll take it from there. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Trisha, who's come out of Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, I'm going to read the first 2, and then you're going to go from verse 14 to 22, which is the end of the chapter. Okay, so Deuteronomy 10:12 is very important because I think it lays out the whole program. And it's also probably the question you've often asked, which is, now, Yisrael, what is Yahweh Elohim asking of you but to fear Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to love him, and to serve Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart and with all your being, to guard the commands of Yahweh and his laws, which I command you today for your good. Okay, Trisha's now going to take us from 14 to the end of the chapter.
See the heavens, and the heaven of heavens beyond belong to Yahweh, your Elohim, also the earth with all that is in it. Yahweh delighted only in your fathers to love them, and he chose their seed after them, you above all peoples, as it is today. And you shall circumcise the foreskin of your heart, and harden your neck no more. For Yahweh your Elohim is Elohim, of mighty ones, and master of masters, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and takes a bride. He executes right ruling for the fatherless and the widow, and loves the stranger, giving him food and a garment. And you shall love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Mitzrayim. Fear Yahweh your Elohim, serve him and cling to him, and swear by his name. He is your praise, and he is your Elohim, who has done for you these great and awesome deeds which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down to Mitzrayim with 70 beings, and now Yahweh your Elohim has made you as numerous as the stars of the heavens.
Amen. Okay, amen. We still have a need for one more reader up here. We got Kirk and then someone more. Okay, Owen's going to come up. Good. As we go into chapter 11, I've got 2 readings there that'll complete the deal. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Kirk, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, take us into chapter 11 and read verses 1 through 12.
And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim and guard his charge, even his laws and his right rulings and his commands always. And you shall know today, for it is not your children who have not known and who have not seen the discipline of Yahweh your Elohim, his greatness, his strong hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works, which he had done in the midst of Mitzrayim, to Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim, and to all his land, and that which he had done to the army of Mitzrayim, to their horses and their chariots. And he made the waters of the sea of reeds overflow them as they pursued you, and how Yahweh has destroyed them to this day. And what he had done for you in the wilderness till you came to this place, and what he had done to Dathan and to Abiram and the sons of Eliab, son of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, and their households, and their tents, and all the living creatures that were in their possession, in the midst of all of Israel. Yours are the eyes that saw all the great work of Yahweh which he did. And you shall guard every command which I command you today, so that you are strong, and shall go in, and shall possess the land which you are passing over to possess, and to prolong your days in the land which Yahweh swore to give to your fathers, to them and their descendants, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land which you are going in to possess is not like the land of Mitzrayim from which you have come, where you sowed your seed and watered it by foot as a vegetable garden. But the land which you are passing over to possess is a land of hills and valleys, which drinks water from the rain of the heavens, a land which Yahweh your Elohim looks after. The eyes of Yahweh your Elohim are always on it, from the beginning of the year to the latter end of the year.
Amen. Okay, last reader now, Mr. Owen. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Owen, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Owen's going to take us now from verse 13 to 25.
And it shall be that if you diligently obey my commands, which I command you today, to love Yahweh your Elohim, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your being, then I shall give you the rain for your land in its season, the early rain and the latter rain, and you shall gather in your grain, and your new wine, and your oil. And I shall give grass in your fields for your livestock, and you shall eat and be satisfied. Guard yourselves, lest your heart be deceived, and you turn aside and serve other mighty ones, and bow down to them. Then the displeasure of Yahweh shall burn against you, and he shall shut up the heavens, and there be no rain, and the land not give its increase. And you shall perish quickly from the good land which Yahweh is giving you. And you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your being, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your children are increased on the soil of which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as the days of the heavens on the earth. For if you diligently guard all these commands which I command you, to do it, to love Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in all his ways, and to cling to him, then Yahweh shall drive out all these nations before you, and you shall dispossess greater and stronger nations than you. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads is yours, from the wilderness of Lebanon, from the river the river Euphrates, even to the western sea is your border. No man shall stand against you. Yahweh your Elohim shall put the dread of you and the fear of you upon all the land where you tread, as he has spoken to you.
Amen. Amen. Okay, thank you, Owen. Thank you very much. Let me get the mic stand here. Amen. Okay, thank you to all the readers. Appreciate that very much. Very good job. Okay, some of you are wondering, why do I put away the large print one? Because that's the 2009 version, and I think in the 1998 version. So I've got my little beat-up paperback that I've had since 1999 or so. So it was right when they first made them. All right, so there's a blessing that we want to go ahead and say real quickly here for the finishing of the Torah reading. Baruch atah Yahweh Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'tachayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Yahweh notein haTorah. Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who has given us a Torah of truth and has placed eternal life in our midst. Blessed are you, Yahweh, giver of the Torah. Amen. All right, good, awesome. Okay, so, excuse me. All right, so now, before we break into the discussion, how many people we got on there now? 259. Okay, so now it's really gone up quite a little bit. I just want to make sure that we're clear on a few things as far as the announcement. So again, a reminder, we do this every Tuesday on YouTube. We also do our streaming of our Shabbat services every Shabbat, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Okay, 1 o'clock in the afternoon Eastern time. We actually start about 1:15, but we start the stream usually around 1 o'clock and with some announcements and a little slideshow there. But we start officially at 1:15. In case you get on there wondering, well, when is this thing going to start? It will start at 1:15, and we do start mostly on time, unless we have a technical challenge, which does happen from time to time. Okay, a reminder then coming up in the fall here, we're getting closer to the fall feast. We do have Trumpet and Atonement, September 30th, October 9th, and then October 13th through 22nd for Sukkot. If you want to come to our Sukkot, we do have paperwork and everything that you need to know on our website. And just go to the MTOI.org site and look for the Sukkot page. Excuse me. Now, all right. So the Torah portion, Eikev, which means because, it begins in chapter 7, in the middle of the chapter. And what we're going to try to do, and yes, go ahead and get the mic. What we're going to try to do is go ahead and go through as far as the discussion here. And now I do have my own notes, and so if I have anything that you guys don't cover or whatever it is, and I feel like we still need to cover, I'll throw those things in. But I do want to make the availability for those of you on the stream as well as here. Now, this is where it can get a little tricky for you on the live stream. Okay, remember, this is a public-private group. What does that mean? Well, we're actually a group of people that are affiliated with each other, and we are a membership of people here as well as at large. A lot of the people on the live stream are absolutely part of our family and members of the congregation. We also understand that there's an extended body out there, that we are all one body, and that a lot of you may be guests who are checking us out. Just please be respectful as you are checking us out, that any comment that is made by me or anybody here is not an invitation for you to argue or push your position or promote anything that you believe separately. It is an opportunity for a discussion, okay? All right, so let's just make sure that we're doing things, in shalom and peace and in order. All right, now, that being said, if you have a comment or question here, you can raise your hand. We're going to try to go somewhat chronologically, meaning we're going to start in chapter 7, hopefully, with some things that came up in 7, and then work our way through chapter 11. And so if you've got a comment or question, go ahead and raise your hands. If you're on live stream, Manny's watching the live stream. All right, Candace? Although I almost didn't recognize you with that hat.
I'm actually wearing the hat because it's so cold in here all the time.
It is cold in here all the time.
Yeah, I freeze. There was several things I seen in the thing, so I'm just going to make some comments. In chapter 7, 15, 17 through 18 and 21, and it says, do not be afraid of the enemy. I think that if we'll remember when we have our fears coming up, that if I remember that if I'm afraid that I can trust Yahweh that he can defeat the enemy, whatever it is, be a bill, be a sickness, whatever. I can trust him to deliver me. And then in verse 22, it talks about the beast of the field, that he would not destroy all the sinners out of the land. And I was thinking about that. Why would that be? And then as I thought about it in my own life. I thought, when I first came to Yahweh, what if he revealed to me all my defects of character at the beginning?
All at once.
All at once instead of one by one. It would destroy me. It would. I wouldn't be able to stand. I mean.
Amen.
So I see that. And then in Deuteronomy 8:18, Yahweh gives the power to give wealth. And I thought about the prosperity preachers who quote this part of the scripture, but they leave out the last part.
To establish his covenant.
Right. You get money to establish his covenant. It's not just to get big jets and diamonds and pearls and all that stuff. Okay, and then in 9, 12, and 20.
Honey, remind me I need to sell my jet. Okay, just.
Okay.
That was a joke.
In Deuteronomy 9, 12, and 26.
I plan to keep it, so, No, I'm kidding, okay. I don't have it yet. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I find that Yahweh is wanting to distance himself from the people, because he tells Moses, your people whom you brought out. And Moses comes back in verse 26, he puts it back into the right perspective by saying, your people and your inheritance.
Amen.
That's
Thank you. Thank you, Candace. That was a good journey through a couple of the chapters there. Appreciate that very much. Look, I just want to take a couple of things that she said and just hit on a little bit clearer. He sent them on a journey. Well, no. He started off by calling them out of a place. And when he called them out of a place and then sent them on the journey, he's saying, do not be afraid. So I like that Candace pointed that out. That's really good. That wasn't really necessarily in my notes in that perspective there, but I think that's really good. That's a piece that I would add there. I've called you. I've got a plan for you. You need to trust that I'm going to finish what I start with you as long as you don't quit. As long as you go down the path. And so don't be afraid. Okay, and so that's really good. I appreciate that, because a lot of people may be struggling with that exact thing. He has called you out of whatever you were in, sent you on a journey, and yet sometimes, and maybe more often than not, you're afraid. And why would you be afraid? He says, I go before you. I didn't, you know what, do you believe he called you by accident? Okay, so he knows the end from the beginning. He planned this out. He didn't do it by accident. He knows that you can make it. I can't tell you how many times lately, and again, I'm not picking on anybody that I've called, that have taken phone calls from lately, but I've had to encourage a lot of people, and it's not a negative on them. Same thing would go for you, to remind you, and I said this one Rosh Chodesh recently, a couple months ago, you can do this. Not because I think you can, but because he knows you can. Otherwise, he wouldn't have called you when he did. He called you knowing you can. So why would you be afraid? That's great that Candace noticed that in there. Really appreciate that very much. Okay, there's more things that she pointed out. We'll hit on them as they come up some more as we go through. Okay, who's next? Okay, Michelle?
I had an interesting one pop up at me this time. It was chapter 7, verse 26. And do not bring an abomination into your house, lest you be accursed like it. Would that be like if you had people come to your house, guests or whatever, that bring like pork or shrimp, or allowing people to work on your property on Shabbat or things like that? It was just I saw that kind of for the first time.
Well, in the context here, he's talking about idols and idolatry and that kind of thing. He says, look, don't bring this stuff into your house. There's a bunch of things happening. First of all, he's telling you to destroy them. And then he's telling you in verse 25 that you're not to covet the silver or gold that is on them, nor take it for yourselves, which is why when people have said to me, Rabbi, you don't understand. I love sentences to start off with, you don't understand. Okay? Usually that means they don't understand. All right? Rabbi, you don't understand. I spend thousands of dollars on all this Christmas stuff. What am I supposed to do? Can I just go ahead and sell it? No. No. Go read Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 25. Okay, you're not to benefit from the stuff that was of the wrong stuff. Don't covet it. Don't throw it on eBay. Okay? We destroy it. We throw it out. But, oh goodness, stop with the but. That's remember the sheep and goats thing. That's the goat sound, but. Okay? Just be careful with that. All right, it says you should not covet the silver or the gold that's on them, nor take it for yourselves. In other words, there's value in it. You should not covet or desire the value in the item. Yeah, you spent a lot of money on dumb stuff. By the way, all of us, whether it was pagan or not, have spent money in our lives on dumb stuff. Even if it was completely benign, we have spent money on dumb stuff. That happens. And a lot of that money you'll never see again because you can't sell the thing or get it back, whatever. But see, you need to be willing to just get rid of it. Throw it aside. Show that you don't mind that there's no more value in it. You already spent that money anyway and were planning to keep that stuff forever. You weren't planning to get the money back ever. So why all of a sudden now are you worried about how much it cost? I mean, it was never in your plan to sell the stuff when you bought it. As a matter of fact, it's probably your plan to pass it down generationally, to bless your children's children. Okay? I mean, that was probably in your plan anyway. So don't get all upset about, I spent all this. You know, I know some people that have taken it out in their backyard and used it for target practice. Okay? Or whatever else, that they wanted to do. Turn it into a pagan piñata. Start smacking it with a bat. I don't care what just put it in the garbage. Just be rid of it. And you should be glad, not lamenting. That's the point of the verse here is don't be reluctantly crying as you're, be ridding yourself of it. Be glad, boom, glad, done. Amen and amen. Okay? All right. So that was a good verse for you to bring up. And then as far as not bringing an abomination into your house, okay, it's talking about those things that don't belong in your house. Yes, pork doesn't belong in your house, neither does shrimp and other things. I get that. But I'm just saying here it's specifically talking about those things like the physical things like the idols, the carved images, etc., of their mighty ones. These things do not. Because remember, we have a hard time. Okay, I've said this last week. I'll be saying it a lot more. I like the phrase. The book is not written to you. It's written for you. Okay? We today don't have a lot of physical idolatry going on. Although, you know what? If you go through the Christian churches, they do love their crosses and they do love their imagery that's in physical imagery. All right? And that stuff has got to go. You don't bring that stuff into your house. So now back then, remember it was written to these people here in Deuteronomy. They had a problem. You could go around down any thoroughfare in a city where the marketplace was, and there was booths and booths and booths of people selling physical wood, clay, whatever, idols. And these things were not to come into your house. And they often were bejeweled and decorated or covered in silver or gold. Now the idea was that he's saying, look, don't covet the gold. In other words, don't go ahead and just break it to try to get the gold off of it and keep the gold. You get rid of the whole thing. That's the idea of putting it under the ban, utterly destroy it. Okay, you shouldn't benefit. In other words, you should get no benefit from the thing that was wrong. Does that kind of make sense then as a sort of a pattern framework for that? You should not benefit from the thing that is an abomination to him. So just be rid of it. Okay? As a matter of fact, you are to utterly loathe it. That's pretty strong stuff. Utterly loathe it, utterly hate it, for it is accursed. Wow. I mean, that's some really strong stuff. So don't bring this stuff into your house and don't benefit from the stuff and destroying it. Okay, good points. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, next. Okay, the mic's coming around here to Kathy.
Thank you. I don't know, Rabbi, if you want to deal with this,
I don't. Okay, next question.
but piggybacking, sorry, attaching myself to Michelle's question. I got what you said about, images and idols and all of that. How do we do that? How do we make the decisions about things? Like you said, don't bring pork and whatever into your house. We have uncovenanted guests come to our home. Should
Okay.
we?
Good question. Actually, I was thinking of going in this direction and I didn't, but go ahead, finish first.
Yeah, and also when I got rid of the stuff, the cursed stuff, some of the things I was unclear, like I had a picture of, it was a pottery thing of Yeshua washing a disciple's feet. And I was confused in my head about, well, this is an image of Yeshua, it's not Yeshua. And so I didn't think it wasn't an idol, but I gave it away. Because I'm, in Romans it talks about don't worship, people have animals in their house and all kinds of stuff, so I'm confused. So I appreciate it, if you'll clarify.
No problem. All right. Okay, so we have two big issues here. One is the issue of what things should or shouldn't be in your house. So look, if you have something like a picture that is an image of Yeshua doing something like washing disciples' feet, I don't think that's a problem, okay? But that's something if you don't feel comfortable with it, certainly you can give it away or whatever you want to do. I've seen lots of imagery that depicts scenes out of the scriptures that there's nothing wrong with them, all right? So it just depends on, of course, if it has a big, caption on it that the caption doesn't go along with your beliefs, that could be a different problem. But if it's just a picture, well, let's put it this way. That's why you should have a covering. You should have somebody that you can go to and ask that question. Specifically say, you can bring the item in and say, is this thing going to be okay? Or take a picture of it and go, hey, is this something that's going to be okay or not? All right? That's something you should be able to ask somebody. All right? Okay, so that's a good question. This comes up on a regular basis. Look, I'll say it in terms of the parameters for the decision. If the item has never been used to worship, remember now you have to go back to the teaching on worship so you know what worship means, okay? If it has not been used in idolatry and you're not planning to use it in idolatry, it's probably okay. Some of you like cats or dogs or fish or birds or something that you just have an affinity for. My daughter loves butterflies, okay? All right, so there's an affinity for something that is, on the earth above, on the earth below, or up in the heavens above, but there's an affinity for. Some children just love the sun, the moon, the stars, and the whole thing of astronomy. I didn't say astrology, I said astronomy, okay? The stars and the sun, the moon, the planets. And so these things, unless you're planning to pray to them, or give them credit as if they're Elohim, or unless they had been used, like you may go to an antique place and buy something only to find out that it was a fertility thing or some other idol of some sort that a society or culture used to use. Find out the origin of things before you buy them. Then it's probably okay if it's not one of those things, all right? Okay, so my daughter has a lot of things with butterflies, but she doesn't pray to them. They've never been used to pray to. She doesn't think they're Elohim. Okay, I have an aunt who has a thing about penguins, and she has a little, whether it's made out of, glass or stone or anything. If she finds in a store little penguins, she may buy one and put it on a shelf somewhere. She loves penguins. She doesn't pray to them, doesn't pay homage to them. Okay, nobody else ever did. And so that's the parameters, okay? Art is allowed. Okay, art is allowed. Because you even know that they put pomegranates and other imagery on the priestly garments. Okay? Art is allowed. Okay, so just so you understand that. Now, the other piece of this is what if you've got uncovenanted people that you're dealing with? Now, this can come in two forms. It can come either in the form of somebody who's coming to your house as a guest, or it could be the fact that you live in a unequally yoked house. Okay? So, or actually in a third way, you're equally yoked, but you have children that you raised really well when you were back then, but not where you are now, so they still think that way. Okay, you raised them up in the way they should go, and then you came to realize that's not the way they should go. But they're not easy to depart it. Okay, so what do you do with all this? Okay, so first of all, we are blessed in that society has come to a place where there are serious allergies to things. In other words, it's not unusual to say to somebody, you can't bring certain things in my house. You have a kid with peanut allergies or some other allergy, you will tell everybody, this cannot come in my house. It used to be telling people they can't bring certain things to your house, they might be like, what? You're gonna think, why can't I do that? But now this is common. I mean, I know people in this congregation, when we go places like to the feast, it's not enough that we made sure that there would be no pork or shellfish or whatever. They're allergic to 67 other things that they have to worry about in their diet. They're not just maybe diabetic, or they're gluten-free, or they've got some sort of Crohn's thing, or they've got celiac, or they've got problems with sugar, or they've got problems with I think we have somebody with a problem with corn, and there can't be any corn products. I mean, we have people allergic to and having issues with all kinds of stuff. And you know people like that too. You know, when I travel, they always ask me, is there anything that you can't eat? And they're not asking me about kosher because they're inviting me knowing I'm the rabbi. But there may be other things that I can't eat. So this is common enough, so it should be a little easier today than it might have been 20, 30 years ago. Not that people didn't have the problem, it just wasn't as openly discussed 20, 30 years ago. Or you didn't hear it that much. Okay, so that being said, and by the way, that works really well in restaurants too, because you can walk into a restaurant and be able to tell them, look, you know, you don't have to, it's not being deceptive really if you say, I have a seafood allergy or something, and then they'll know they can't put the shrimp on the thing your food's getting cooked on. Because that comes up commonly enough, and that keeps the shrimp off the cooking. Okay? We went to a Japanese restaurant recently where we were able to do that. They just called it a seafood allergy because we told them we just couldn't eat it. And they said, well, just tell the waiter that you have a seafood allergy, and they'll scour the thing down and make sure that, and when they say scour it down, I mean they scour these things down. And they use separate utensils and everything else so that your food, because they know that these allergies can be serious. Now, of course, it's not because I have an allergy, it's because of kashrut, but it gets me the same result. Okay? So now what about it coming in your house? Well, let's first establish whose house it is. Okay, if you are the man, it's your house. You should not allow anything in your house that doesn't belong in your house. Oh, but you don't know my brother or my sister, my mother, it's your house. I don't care if when they show up they think it's their house. Got a lot of people call me up whose parents all of a sudden show up and think it's their house. You need to make sure they know it's your house. It's your house. You get to decide what happens and doesn't happen, what comes in and doesn't come into your house. You are responsible, actually, for that. You know, I've said often lately, you are primarily responsible for all aspects of your life. If you're the man in the house, you're responsible for everything going on in that house. Okay, so you don't let them do that. Because that happens. People will show up, and then they'll figure they're visiting you. They don't know what you're doing these days. Maybe you didn't tell them. Maybe that's a reason why you should tell them. And they show up, and they go shopping on the way, and they show up with pork and shrimp and this and that, and they go to fill up your refrigerator, and you need to make sure they know, sorry, but that doesn't work here. You can't put that in my house. Okay? Now, when I visit someone else's house, that's different. Okay, my folks have unclean things in their house. So do many of your parents. So when I go to that house, my children know what not to eat and what they can eat and what gets done and what can't be done. And I happen to have very polite parents who they will say to my children, you can't eat that, it has something in it, because they may not know all the ingredients of some of the stuff that's pre-made and bought. Okay? Now, of course, they're older now, my children know the difference, but when they were little. So you may not have necessarily family members that are that nice. You're going to have to be very diligent and vigilant yourself to make sure that you know what's in what your children or you are eating in someone else's house. Okay? But that being said, we started off with the men. It's your house. You are responsible. Don't let, You're all going to say, but you don't understand. I'm going to lose my mother, my friend, my this, my that. They're not going to come over. They're going to, what do you mean I don't understand? Do you not read the verse where Yeshua says, if you do not love less by comparison, mother, father, sister, brother, etc., you are not worthy of being my disciple? Who said this was going to be easy? We just read a Torah portion where he says, don't be afraid. Candace brought that up. It's not going to be easy. He never said this was going to be easy. He said it would be worth it and that you would have protection in it, and it would all work out as a blessing in the end if you would trust it. But there's a couple of verses that we read which talk about clinging. Okay, we have a teaching called cling, cleave, hold fast. Clinging, why would you cling to something? You ever see a child when they get nervous and they run up to mom's leg and they grab a hold? You can't pull that kid off. Because that kid says, this is safe, nothing else says, I'm going to hold on with everything I got. I'm not comfortable. I'm going to be in the safe place. Apparently, the giant forest of legs, you know, mom, dad, they got these like tree trunks of legs to a little baby. I'm going to grab a hold of that leg and hide in the tree trunks of the legs, you know? I'm holding on for safety here. I'm safe here. It's like home base. I'm safe. But he says to cling to him. Why would you have to cling? Because it's going to be tough to hold on. It's going to be a lot of shaking, a lot of turmoil, and all kinds of chaos, and you got to hold on. Just hold on. Don't let go. And so it's your house. Don't be afraid of the consequences. Actually, be very afraid of the consequences, but not the ones from your family members. Be afraid of the consequences that he says, if you, then this. He also says, if you don't, then this other thing. Okay? If you trust me, if you obey me, all the good stuff. If you don't trust me, don't obey me, a lot of bad stuff. Blessing and cursing. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. Eventually, we're going to get to chapter 28 where we're really going to get into it. The blessings and cursings. And so let's just understand that. Okay, so that takes care of one half of it. So what that means, uncovered, or not uncovered, the man's covenanted and the wife maybe isn't. She can't bring the Christmas tree in the house. I'll end up in divorce. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. It's your house. No Christmas tree. She can't bring the pork in the house. You're the man of the house. You are responsible. You don't understand how to go about this? Call me. We'll talk about it. Now, on the other side of it, woman, the wife is covenanted. The husband is not. Back to the same rule number one. It's his house. He's responsible for the choices he makes in the house. He can bring whatever he wants in the house. You do not need to participate in it, though. Okay? If he wants bacon, he can make his own bacon. Don't be obnoxious about it, rude about it. Just say, look, this is not where I'm at. You're welcome to do it. I'm not cooking it for you. I'm not bringing it in the house. You can bring it in the house, his house. He wants to put a tree, let him put a tree. Don't participate in the tree. It's his house. You still need to maintain your vertical alignment correctly in the house. If you're the wife, you're not the husband, you're the wife. You cannot force him. Now, it's your relationship. You could try. You could talk, you can negotiate, you can try to get him to be respectful enough but if he says, I'm bringing it in, you only have two choices, let him or divorce him. You don't have another choice to usurp him and to somehow undermine what he's doing, because that's a different vertical alignment problem that will not do you well when Abba sits you in front of him. We must always be aware of our vertical alignment issues. Yahweh doesn't just expect you to behave correctly individually, but in the context of a vertical framework. That's not easy, okay? Some of you are going to say, well, that's not fair, the men this, the men. Well, look, the men always run into a problem anyway, because then they have to deal with me. In other words, somebody that they have to deal with that is also in the vertical alignment. In this group, it's me. But at some point, they're going to deal with their sovereignty issues and their vertical issues when they come under another covering. Okay, because this whole thing works through child, mother, father, pastor, rabbi, whoever, Yeshua, the Father in heaven. There's a structure here. Okay? That structure, by the way, is everywhere in your book, everywhere in Scripture. I'm not just making this up. You know this. Okay? As a matter of fact, Where was the verse that I saw? I made a quick note. In chapter 10 and in verse 8, it says, at that time, Yahweh separated the tribe of Levi to bear the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, to stand before Yahweh, to serve him, and to bless in his name to this day. That's what anointed and appointed looks like. He chose them to do a role. Okay, women, you were chosen to do a role. Men, you were chosen to do a role. Somebody like me, I was chosen to do a role. You got to understand your role and make sure that you are in the right relationship with people around you and the roles that they have. We had people here that you see trying to usurp roles on a regular basis. Did it go well? Never. Korach had that problem. Dathan and Aviram had that problem. Okay? You have problems going on with the people that will think that they can overstep a role. Okay? So this is not easy for you ladies, especially if you're in a mixed house. You know, you guys are probably on the same page when you got married, but now you're not. It happens. I don't know why it happens. I don't know what the plan is, but it is what it is. Try your best to live at peace. Do not try to fight. Do not create strife. What you want to do, though, is you want to, as best you can, say, I love you. I am just trying to please my Creator. I do not expect at this time that necessarily we're going to be on the same page with this, but I will respect where you are walking. Please respect where I am walking. That means, ladies, you cannot attack them, not mock them, not tell them that's horrible, sinful, pagan, abomination. Don't do that to them. They don't see it. They don't get it. But try to just get them to say, I respect you, so you respect me, okay? They want to go out and play and work or whatever they want to do on Shabbat, great. Just don't go with them. That comes up a lot. Well, my husband wants me to come with him on the fishing trip or to the whatever he wants to do on Shabbat. No. Rabbi, you're really being hard. Am I? Or is it what the word says? Am I being hard? Trying to keep you safe. That's tough. But you have to make your stand. Look, there is a piece in here, chapter 10 and verse 20. Fear Yahweh your Elohim, serve him, cling to him, and swear by his name. Okay, so what is it asking really? It says, fear him, that's obvious. Go listen to fear of Yahweh teaching. Serve him, that's pretty obvious. Serve him was what? Do what he wants, do what he says. That's how you serve someone. You are obedient to what they say. A servant follows instructions. Cling to him, we talked about that already. What's a swear by his name thing? It has to do with you're claiming to be his, have integrity. Okay, I'm going to paraphrase that as, it's not that you're actually going to actually swear in his name or take oaths in his name. He's saying, look, identify yourself as his and have integrity. Okay? That's the part that's hard when you're in a mixed marriage. And I'm not talking about racially, I'm talking about Torah walk. When you're in an unequally yoked marriage. Okay? It is hard to have the integrity. But try to be as loving and gentle as you can. Don't attack him or her. But right now we're talking about the wives with the husbands. Don't attack them. Husbands, same thing. Don't attack your wives if they don't get it. Don't mock them if they don't get it. Empathize with them when you tell them they can't have their tree and decorate the way they want with the stuff they normally do on Christmas. It's breaking their heart. Have compassion on them. They don't get what you get. Don't mock them, pick on them, and tell them they're stupid or whatever else you might do. They can't see it yet. You can. Love them. Be merciful. Have compassion. But still, don't allow stuff to happen that shouldn't. Okay? Because I'm really getting, I don't know the right word I was about to say. I'm getting worn out, I guess, to some degree, with the people that call me up and say things that start with, my wife won't let me. I say, okay, we have a bigger problem than whatever it is your wife won't let you. What do you mean your wife won't let you? I get it when the women call and say, my husband won't let me. Well, what are you guys telling me? My wife won't let me. My wife won't let me. Okay, we got to talk about your relationship. My wife won't let me. Okay. We've got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. Because that's like from outer space. What do you mean my wife won't let me? Are you not the husband? Are you not the man in the house? What do you mean my wife won't let me? We have a problem out there. We have men that are women and women that are men in their behavior. I'm not talking about this gender confusion. I mean in their mindset. They've lost their understanding of their roles. And it's destroying everything to the point where this whole gender confusion it just sort of makes sense to people because they see it anyway. It's really crazy. All right, so hopefully that answers that question to a large degree. Okay, ladies, if you're in a uncovenanted marriage but you're covenanted, you have to allow him whatever he's going to do. Just don't participate in the stuff you know you shouldn't participate in, okay? Okay, that's as best I can do it. If he wants to invite everybody over and make a big deal out of Christmas and everything, just participate in as minimal a way as you can as far as, I mean, if you could even get out of the house and go find a reason to visit a friend out of town or something, go right ahead and do it, whatever. But just do the best you can. If you don't know what to do, call me. It's okay. We'll talk about it. No, look, you can have she asked about the Cornelius rule. Well, it's really not so much that. Look, you can have anybody sup at your house. They just can't bring the food that doesn't belong in your house. Okay? Okay, so let's understand that part of the whole Peter and the whole sheet thing in Acts, chapter 10 was dealing with the idea that there was a very unwritten or written understanding within Judaism that you weren't going to break bread with people that were not covenanted and circumcised. And he was saying, no, these are people too. You can talk to them and work with them, and they can eat and break bread with you. They just can't bring that stuff with them. Okay? And so that's part of the idea is just don't participate or don't let them bring it in. This could be hard. You know what you're going to have to do when you have friends come over? You're going to have to tell them up front, by the way, so you know, blah, blah, blah. This is my house. You can't bring these things in my house. Please respect that. I want you to come over. I'd love for you to stay, but you can't do this. You've done that before. Some of you have friends that smoke, and you don't want it in your house, and you've had to tell them, you'll need to do that outside. I mean, there are things like this that happen on a regular enough basis. And you tell people, look, I'm sorry, but you can't do that in here. Okay, so no. Okay, see, now you're still trying to find a way to justify it. Stop it. Okay, so the question is, first of all, Kathy has decided that she doesn't need a mic. She's just going to yell from her seat. Okay, she said, so can they have the pork and the shrimp and everything in an ice box and just grill it outside? No, they're not putting that stuff on your grill and eating it at your house. Tell them if they want that stuff, go to a restaurant. They can order all they want. Okay? It doesn't come into your house. It's not part of what's going on at your house. No. Okay? And that's all we're going to do with that, okay? Look, if I go to a restaurant with my family, or if you go or friends, if they want to order some sort of a unclean dish at the restaurant, what am I supposed to do? Nothing. It's not my house. I'm not responsible. My house, I'm responsible. Okay? Whatever they do at a restaurant, it's up to them. Okay, we've gone around this mountain long enough. Oh, wait a minute. That was a different Torah portion. Okay, let's continue with another comment or question. Where's the mic? Okay, Rabbi Tom. And by the way, that was a good question, Kathy, and it was a good point. So I'm glad we covered it. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. In chapter 8, verse 5, it says, "Thus you shall know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh your Elohim disciplines you." Well, not so coincidentally, I was reading in Psalm 94, "Blessed is the man you discipline, O Yah, and instruct out of your Torah, to give him rest from the days of evil until the pit is dug for the wrong." So Yahweh, what I got from this was that Yahweh's discipline always has a purpose. It's never punishment. It's to get us back on the right track so that we can be in a position where we can learn his Torah. I found that encouraging. I just wanted to share it.
Amen.
Thank you.
Okay, so this comes back from the Deuteronomy 8:2 sort of theme here. Here's the question, though. Does Yahweh necessarily discipline you directly? No. So he may discipline you through what? Authority structure that he's put in place. Okay? And so that's again, when we read those things, then you shall know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh disciplines you, and he may use some men to do that, some people to do that. He may do it through a structure that he has in place. Because the people in place have the structural authority, we read throughout the Torah, to put outside the camp. That's the way Yahweh disciplines. Oh no, Moses. See, that's what happened with Aaron and Miriam, right? Oh, Moses, you're the one doing all this stuff. And, oh, wait a minute, no. Korach said the same thing. Oh, you're the one. Yahweh said, excuse me, Moses is the one I appointed. And what he says on my behalf. That's why we have Deuteronomy 17. We'll get there in about a week, okay? About 2 weeks maybe. We'll get to that chapter where it talks about structure and authority. That's an important verse there. How does he discipline? By just putting you through a trial? Maybe, maybe not. Okay. Who has the mic? Okay, Candace.
Rabbi, in chapter 8, verse 6, I found that Revelations 14:12 goes hand in hand with verse 6 in chapter 8. And on the verse, he talks about in 19 and 20 of chapter 8, I know it's a long time coming. I'm beginning to understand about perish and maybe that we don't have a hellfire that we're going to burn eternally in or something. So, because if you perish, that means that's it. It's poof, it's gone. It's under the band. So those were the kind of some things that I saw in chapter 8.
Thank you. All right, so in chapter 8, you did say to verse 6, therefore you shall guard the commands of Yahweh Elohim to walk in his ways and to fear him. And you link that to Revelation 14, where it says, here's the endurance of the set-apart ones. Here are those guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of Yeshua. I think that's not a bad linkage there. I don't know if it says directly linked or not, but it certainly has a similar enough theme, so good call there, okay? And of course, the key word there is the endurance of those who believe. You have to have endurance. There's a teaching we did on that called Endure and Receive the Crown of Life. Okay. Awesome. Who's next? Okay, Kirk.
Just back on that last point, I noticed when you said that uses people for correction through, from him, but like the Assyrian. He uses the Assyrian. Yeah.
Oh, he used the Assyrians, he used the Babylonians, he used Egypt, he used a lot of people, a lot of different times.
Yeah, a lot of groups.
All right, thank you. Look, I'm going to tell you this right now, and everybody's going to get mad maybe on some level, or you've heard it enough that you're not going to get mad, okay? But the indicator to me, my opinion, okay, just my opinion, of where you are in your walk, one of the key indicators is how correctable you are, okay? And I'm not talking about directly from him because I don't know enough in your life to know when he's correcting you or not and whether you're arguing with him or not or what you're doing. But when leadership in your life comes to you and gives you correction, how you handle that will go a long way in demonstrating where you are in your walk. He says it right there. He says, nobody likes correction. Okay, we say, we're going to know in your heart as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh disciplines. But we know there's other verses that talks about how nobody likes correction, but it brings peaceable fruit. But nobody likes it. Look, and I've often said the problem is that most people are not correctable. Look, he calls them stiff-necked for a reason. What does stiff-necked mean? Okay, in other words, they will not bow their head or lower their head to an authority, bow down to. See, a lot of people think of bowing down at the waist, but they wouldn't even bend their head down to give them a little acknowledgement of authority. Stiff-necked, that head is not bending. Okay? And we see this happening over and over and over again. He says in chapter 9 that you were rebellious from the day that I knew you. Verse 9 is 24. Verse 27, he talks about the stubbornness of this people. Are you stubborn? 9:27. He says, remember your servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not look on the stubbornness of this people, or on their wrong or on their sin. Are we any different? What does stubbornness look like? I'm right. I'm going to do it my way, and I don't care what you say. Okay? I'm not going to yield to you. I'm not going to come under you. I'm not going to be instructed by, guided by, or told what to do by you, whoever the you is. Stubborn. Doesn't matter that I'm wrong. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Nobody's going to tell me anything. That is a reasonable, by the way, reaction to someone who came out from under oppression of some sort. I'm free now. Nobody's going to take that away. Nobody's going to tell me what to do. Remember, you were not set free from all masters. You were set free to choose which master you're going to serve. You are going to serve one or the other. If you're being stubborn, you're serving the wrong master. There's a difference between clinging and stubborn. You cling to Yahweh, you're stubborn to yourself. So be careful with that. Because otherwise you fall into verse 24. He says, you have been rebellious against Yahweh from the day that I knew you. What does rebellious mean? Not that they were actively fighting and gathering an army against Yahweh. They were refusing to submit. I know that word comes up occasionally, and you guys all theoretically are all cool with the word until you actually have to do it. We've had more people quit this ministry over this issue than any other issue because they're not correctable. They can't, this has happened even recently. We've had people where I've said, but this is the way it needs to be. And they say, well, I don't agree with that, so I'm not going to submit. Okay, I want to bring this around to discipleship. Okay, first of all, for everybody on the live stream and everybody here, just because anybody stands up at any point and says they're discipling with me, that does not mean that it's true. Many people have done that privately or publicly, or they've sit around saying, oh yeah, I'm discipling with Rabbi. They are studying maybe with me. They are counseling maybe with me. 0 people right now are discipling with me. Okay, just to be clear. Why? Because there's not a person yet that wanted to disciple with me that has demonstrated that they are going to listen and not argue. In other words, that they can submit. That's okay. I'm not looking for disciples necessarily, but people have said to me, I'd like to disciple. They don't know what they're asking for. What they think they're asking for is a close relationship to get the juicy inside stuff or something, or deeper knowledge, or some sort of different access to me as a leader. No, discipleship is a relationship like a father and a son, where the father expects, in order to keep the son safe, the son is going to listen and be correctable, like we read in Deuteronomy, where he talked about as a father disciplines a son, so Yahweh disciplines you. So a lot of people like to throw that word around. They don't understand the word. Okay? You are not going to argue with your discipler. You can discuss. You can share ideas. But it's just like when Abram was with Yahweh, and Abram said, well, what about if there were 50 righteous? Would you destroy the city? And what about if there were 30? But when he got to the number Yahweh was ready for, and he said, okay, that's it. That's it. No more arguing. No discussion. When Moses said to Yahweh, hey, do you think maybe? And Yahweh said, we will not talk about this again. That's the role. What did Yeshua say? He said, there's not a thing, not one thing that I say or do that's out of line with my Father. That's discipleship. And by the way, that means that if you're going to disciple somebody, are you willing to take on that responsibility? That you are literally responsible for everything they do that you teach them to do. And if you're wrong and their wrong is on you. That's a big responsibility. Oh, people talk a lot of talk. I'm just telling you right now, just to be careful with that, because that's what we're seeing here, and it all comes back down to submission and correction. The problem with Israel all the way through the book, actually all the way to Adam and Eve, was their inability to submit. And then they had a challenge of being corrected. What happened when Adam and Eve got corrected? They pointed the finger at everybody but themselves. What made David such a big hero? He took the blame and never pointed a finger at anybody else. He said, you're right, I'm wrong. That made him a man after Yahweh's own heart. No finger pointing, no excuses, owned it, fixed it, moved on, right? But are we correctable? Everything you see going on in Deuteronomy here is all about, are you going to be correctable? He's going to let you know. You're going to hold on, and it's not going to be an easy ride, but are you going to be correctable? Are you going to do what he says to do, even though you don't want to do what he says to do? Not easy. Okay? Husbands and wives, you need to be listening to what I'm talking about because you guys run into this whole thing. Husbands, if you want your wife to submit, are you the kind of guy that she should submit to? Do you know what you're doing? Are you responsible to cover her? Do you provide? Do you protect? Do you know what you're doing? Have you even gotten under somebody to make sure you know what you're doing? Ladies, are you believing in that man? Are you accepting his leadership? After all, you picked him. Don't get all mad about your man you picked. You picked him. Now what are you going to do? You picked him. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. Well, that's your fault. Okay, now we got to figure something out from there. That's because societally we don't have a good system to vet, counsel, and make decisions before picking whoever we pick. Because I've yet to meet a couple that's counseled with me that if I had told them not to get married, they would have listened. I never did get to that point, but I'm just saying I know they wouldn't have listened if I ever said it. They came to me just because they felt they had to. They were going to get married. Now, I gave them tools so they could help figure each other out just to see if it was a good idea for them so they really could know what they were getting into. So I don't have to have anybody say to me, I didn't know. Okay? Some of you who are married, you've heard these magic words. Well, if I'd have only known that you were going to be blah, 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 well, why didn't you know? There's lots of reasons, by the way, why you didn't know. Lots of bad drivers behind the getting married. People speaking into your lives, people pushing you in a direction, hormonal overload, whatever. Okay? Not all good reasons to get married. But guys, don't you all be now, you heard Rabbi, he talked about submission. Hey, what about you? Are you submissive? Are you coming to get covered by me? Are you coming to get worked on by me? Everybody's in the middle. Everybody has to submit and everybody has to lead something. Ladies, that's why you're given children. Or if you don't have children, when you get older, you get other younger ladies to work with. There's a right structure, though, to all these things. But it doesn't mean just because you have the potential for authority that you're qualified to do it. You may need to get trained first. So men, just because you're men, doesn't qualify you for anything. Just because you happen to have the gender for it. Listen, I'm picking on everybody today. Why? Because this is the problem in the body. This is why we're still sucking our thumbs with dirty diapers on. Because we just don't get it. All right? And that's the problem you see here in the book, every single story you read. Everything. Every story you read is a problem with this. No different now. Oh, sorry, I got on my little soapbox here. Okay? All right, who's next? Okay. Christina's like, I don't know if I want to go after that.
No, actually, Yahweh's been talking to me about and showing me through Scripture the very thing that you're talking about. And what it came down to was, are you going to submit or not? Or are you going to be prideful? Because I've discovered that, and I know that you'll have your own comment on this and maybe correct anything that I say, but it seems to me like pride, like in the Webster's dictionary, everyone thinks that it's just arrogance. But there was something that you taught when, I think it was last Torah study, when the children of Israel are in the wilderness and they were afraid, and then they went their own way. And one of the definitions that I believe pride is doing your own thing and not doing what Yahweh says. It has nothing. Arrogance is part of it, but it's more of I'm going this way. Whether you are being arrogant and you're doing it out and you're arriving at pride in a different way, or whether it's fear and you're arriving at pride a different way, it all leads to the same thing. So, yeah.
No, that's correct. Look, pride in essence is a self-focused sovereignty. It's not necessarily because you're egotistical. It just means that you're going to trust you over anything else. That's the pride. Okay? So it doesn't necessarily come from an egotistical place. You can be generally a very humble, giving, serving person who thinks that mostly you're never about you, but then when push comes to shove, are you going to go your way or are you going to submit to an authority? That's where the pride can come in. By the way, we see this a lot even with poor people not letting us help them. It's a whole different level of pride. Okay? Because they don't want to see themselves as needing and being a burden. That's okay, I get that. But then still don't argue with me when I want to help you. Okay?
My actual question, this was the actual question, but you had touched on a lot of the things that Yahweh was showing
Keep the mic right here, because when you talk with your hands, it's not going to work.
My other hand is occupied. Okay, so my actual question is this. I'm in the group for watching the heart of the matter. And so there's a lot about the heart and learning what that means and all of that. And so when we got down to the part where it says that Yahweh told Moses to hew stones, like I asked myself, well, the first one he made himself, and then that Yahweh made himself, and then he carved out the stone, the commandments on the stone himself, and then the second time Yahweh required that Moses make it himself. And I was thinking about the other scriptures, like in Ezekiel 36:26, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I'll remove from you a heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. I feel like those two are related, but then I look at it and I'm like, okay, but it seems to be, if it's relating to Moshe and what he had to physically go do, that there is like an action part on our side. Is that correct?
It is correct. I mean, look, there's other verses where it talks about, and you shall lay up for yourselves, okay, the Torah instruction, okay, and that's really part of it. If you look at verse 18 of chapter 11, and you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart. You shall lay up these words. And it doesn't say I will write them or I will place them. He says, and you shall lay up these words. Okay? That's a very active part. In the Heart of the Matter teaching, we point that out everywhere that we can, that it's something that you need to do. And that's something that, unfortunately, we've got a lot of years of the church trying to confuse what you need to do and what he's going to do. And separating those issues out becomes real problematic. Okay, live stream. I assume that's where the mic is because I see Owen over there. Okay. And I've only got like 17 more bullet points to hit in the next 6 minutes, but go ahead.
Yeah, there's an incredible amount of stuff. I don't even know if we're going to make it anymore. There are people, I'm hoping you can help me with the clarification on things that are going on. The internet's pretty much going wild right now because of things that you've been saying.
Oh, I'm sure. Especially when I start talking about the roles of men and women and everything else.
Yeah, well, just going back to the things you have to purge and stuff like that, if you can clarify a few things, especially people are struggling with crosses with Jesus on them, Jesus Bibles, wreaths that resemble Christmas but have nothing to do with Christmas, just all kinds of stuff going on with Christian books, things like that.
All right, so good question. Okay, first of all, my opinion, the crosses have all got to go. Okay, they go back to Tammuz worship. They do not belong in any belief system that's Torah-based. Okay, I know Christianity has embraced it with full force, full heart and everything else. All that stuff's got to go. All right. As far as books and things, look, I've got every kind of book you can imagine that's related to the subject of Judeo-Christian religious belief on my shelf, but I use that so that I can reference things that people are asking me from. I mean, I've got, Adventist books, I've got Catholic books, I've got the Book of Mormon, I've got every kind of book you can imagine on my shelf, but that's because I use them as references for my job. Okay, now, if I was not doing this job, I probably wouldn't have all those books. Okay? But the book itself is not like the verse isn't talking about getting rid of those books per se, all right? Especially it depends on what you're using for. If you're using them for reference so you can understand some of the things that people are struggling with that you might run into and remember understand where they're coming from. Now bear in mind, although I have kept all these books on my shelf, I've looked at them almost never. I keep thinking they'll be useful at some point, and I really have never found them to be useful. So I actually, to be honest, they sit on my shelf, and I really don't think I've ever opened them up, okay? I also have a ton of really very good Bible helps that I never really open up all that much either. I just don't quite have the time for it. And a few things that I use all the time, I use all the time, okay? So crosses, I would say, we've got to go. Anything with the J name, anything that promotes that, watch the Beware False Prophets teaching, you'll understand. But also the old saying that goes is, and I think there's verses that talk about if it's a stumbling block or it's a thing for you, then you need to get rid of it just for you, even if it may not be a Yahweh Torah problem. When in doubt, get rid of it. Put it out. Okay, when in doubt, put it out. All right? If you're afraid to pendulum swing too much, then quarantine it for a while and then wait till you're not as emotional about it and then decide. Don't just rush to throw everything out of your house. Okay? Box some of the stuff up for a decision later. Stuff you're really sure about, then go ahead and get rid of it. Stuff you're not sure about, you're always welcome to call. And we could talk about it, okay? Don't panic. See, you're also coming out of a fear Christian mindset of, if I have this thing, I'm doomed, I'm going to hell. Stop thinking that way. This is a journey and a process, and you're going to figure this out, and you're going to, little by little, find that there are things in your life, in your walk, and in your way of doing things that are not right, that you thought were okay this year, and next year you won't think they're okay. And maybe there's some things that you thought weren't okay this year. It turns out they were okay. We're going to make lots of adjustments. We're going to overswing the pendulum. We're going to make lots of mistakes. Okay? And so the ones that you're sure of, get rid of. Okay, thank you for the class. Okay? We're going to make lots of mistakes. But the ones you're sure of, get rid of. The ones you're not sure of, go ahead and box them up, put them aside with a label on that says to be looked at in 6 months, just to calm down, think about it, pray about it, get counsel about it, whatever. Okay? You're not going to be getting like a giant mark against you on your, eternal report card or something that's going to, because you had something in your house like that. Look, the obvious stuff is not what's going to bother you. It's the stuff you don't know really what to do with. That's going to be the thing that irritates you and you don't know what to do. All right? Get rid of the obvious stuff first. Okay? That should be simple enough. Hopefully that gives you parameters. But see, again, the reason you don't know what to do is because the Ruach doesn't answer all your questions. You need to have someone to ask. That's the structure that we actually have from Yahweh put in place. All right? Those are the kind of decisions you look to a Deuteronomy 17 thing. These are, by the way, the things that we have today, they didn't necessarily have back then when the book was written. Okay? We've got a lot of stuff that we have, like all this technology and digital stuff. They didn't have all that. Photographs, pictures. They had paintings maybe, drawings, but they had very little of the stuff that we have today in a lot of ways. So how do we apply things today? We actually get counsel about it. All right. What else you got?
Okay. Let's see. Sid, Deuteronomy 7:14 comment. I love how the blessing here is linked with the increase of children instead of the common usage being about material gain.
Okay.
Norfleet 7:22 says the nations will be driven out little by little, but 9:3 says they will be destroyed quickly. Can you help me understand this?
Okay, 7:22, and then 9 what?
9:3.
Okay, so okay, now here he's talking about the Anakim. He's not talking about everybody everywhere and all the things everywhere because he was worried about the beast. He said, but it's not like they were going to go through the entire land and wipe out everybody. He says, as you face them, each battle will be quick. Okay, each battle will be quick. So it's not a contradiction here. He said, I'm not going to drive out all the nations before you. I'll do it little by little because the beasts of the field will be too numerous, etc. But then he says, in this particular case, look, you're going to be running into the Anakim, and they're going to scare you. Don't worry about this. He says, destroy them quickly. Destroy them quickly. Not everybody in all the nations. They're going to run into a lot of nations that are not the Anakim. Okay, there's lots of different peoples in their journey into the land that they're going to run into. Okay, as they're dispossessing the nations out of the land, the Anakim are just one of them. Okay? So hopefully that makes some sense. Also, by the way, that Deuteronomy 7:14, if you go back to verse, what did I write in my notes here? And so 7:12. Okay. The thing that I want to mention that's really important is when we get to verse 14, we talk about blessed are you above all peoples. There is not going to be a barren man or woman around you. So there's going to be this blessing, etc. But in verse 12, okay, so he talks about it goes to the children. Verse 12, let's understand the process here. It's hear, guard, do. It shall be because you hear these are rulings and shall guard and do them. All the rest of the stuff flows after that. We have to hear it, we have to guard it, we have to do it. Okay? Because, I mean, that's just over and over and over again, all right? Okay, what else you got?
Carrie, also for 722, why destroy the nations little by little? And what does beasts of the field becoming too numerous mean?
Okay, there literally is a balance. Okay, let's take it from a physically literal sense. Okay, there were, where they lived, lions and tigers and bears, oh my. I mean, every place had these kind of things. What kind of specific wild beasts, I don't know, were native to that area. But there were vicious wild beasts. And what kept the balance is the number of peoples balancing out, keeping the wild beasts at bay. You wipe out the peoples and there's nothing to balance the wild beasts. All right? There's a natural balance in terms of numbers to keep that under control. So this was actually first interpreted very much as a literal thing. It's a Peshat thing. They literally, if they wiped the people out too quickly, then the animals that lived, we're talking about the predator animals, would be a problem. All right? See, we don't think of that now. We all live in big cities where we just don't run into that very often. Okay, we don't live where we have to worry about, now some people may live out further, like into the woods or up in the mountains where they do have bears and things that could be a problem. But generally speaking, we don't have lions and bears and other things giving us trouble. Okay? But they had, in those places, all kinds of wild animals that could be very vicious. And they would flourish and outnumber them and create a problem if they had wiped all the people out quickly. Okay, next question. It's already 10 o'clock, so I want to speed this up a little bit.
722, just a comment. This verse makes me think, this is Chino Man. This verse makes me think of parts of me which must decrease so that he may increase. These parts leave me little by little. If they left me all at once, I might be unbearable to be around. Michael Diaz, 726. I had a person move in next door who did Santeria. When they moved, they threw away some things, and my nephew saw a toy and wanted it. I applied this verse.
Excellent.
Was that Christianese?
No, that was proper. You did not want that stuff in your house.
Greg Wallen, 8:3. Every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh, isn't the very ground we walk upon the result of a word of the mouth of Yahweh?
Yes.
Tom Lasardo, comment, Deuteronomy 8:9. When you mix iron and copper, you get bronze. Randy Baker, Deuteronomy 8:12 and 17. Brings to remembrance Proverbs 30:8-9 to remind us that all of our blessings come from Yahweh and we should never take credit for ourselves.
Okay, hold on. Let me just interrupt for a second. Okay, so when we do the blessing after the meal called Birkat HaMazon, okay, this comes out of Deuteronomy 8. And we look at verse 10, it says, and you shall eat and be satisfied, which is why I always ask the question, have you eaten and are you satisfied? And then it says, and if that's true, and you shall bless Yahweh Elohim for the good land which he has given you. And then drop down to verse 18, that you remember that it's Yahweh your Elohim who gives you the power to get the wealth in order to establish his covenant. Okay, so that is also a big part of it, and that was mentioned by Candace at the beginning, was that he gives us the power to create wealth because it's part of establishing his covenant. It's not just, don't think of it from a Christianese idea that so we give the money to the ministry to establish the covenant. No, it's part of establishing his covenant that he promised if you obey and you bless him and you do what he says, he will do his part, which is to give you the abundance that he promised you to give. That's establishing the covenant. What was the covenant? You do, you obey, and he provides all the other stuff. So don't only think of it from the point of supplying the finances to somehow get a ministry out. That's Christian thought. That's not what's being talked about here. Okay? It does take finances to do the work we're doing, He's talking about his covenant was not about going out and proselytizing. His covenant was, if you obey, I will bless you. And so he gives you the abundance so that you could have the blessings he promised you, thus establishing his covenant. So let's be careful that we're not just thinking about it as somehow to put the money into ministry and that kind of thing, okay? There's other ways and other places he talks about supplying ministry with finances through tithes and offerings, the Levitical system, the Melchizedekian system, etc., right? This is not about that. So when the churches talk about this, they talk about it incorrectly on every level. Okay? Good. Next point.
Connecting dots would like to know Deuteronomy 9. To guard as it is used here, besides the doing, is this also count as not allowing people to talk smack about the word?
No. Okay? You are to guard the word in terms of how you use it, work it, do it, etc. You are a watchman over your instructions as was given to you. His word doesn't need you to watch over it with what everybody else is doing. Okay? So no, big no, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Okay?
Zach would like to know chapter 9, 4 through 6. Those submitted to the Father are able to be used as the tools he uses to work his will and keep his promise, but they must be in complete submission. That was a comment.
Yes, that's true. Look, Deuteronomy 9, 4 through 7, I wrote down in my notes, reality check. Okay? In other words, don't you think that this has anything to do with you. You didn't earn this. You didn't bring it out upon yourself. It's not because of your righteousness. It's because of some promises he made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In other words, don't think about how great I am, and that's why I'm getting all this stuff. Okay, so he said that really important there in the reality check. Also, key words in the beginning of it, Deuteronomy 9:4, do not think in your heart. Go back to the heart of the matter teaching to understand why that's such a problem, okay, in that reality check. And then also, as you go through it, I want you to think of this whole thing about, in verse 6, it says, and you shall know that Yahweh Elohim is not giving you this good land to possess because of your righteousness, for you are stiff-necked people. So this is where we talk about the imputed righteousness of Messiah. It comes into play when we're ready to enter the land, which is like being at the kingdom door, because it's not because of your righteousness that you'll get to do that. But he did remember, what he's saying is that you still had to walk to this point. You still had to start learning how to do this. You still had to get to the Jordan. You still have to cross over the Jordan. And by the way, they even get into the land, but because they did not keep guard due, they got thrown out. So let's always understand that. So when people talk about substitutionary righteousness, that's kind of what's going on here to some degree. There is a linkage to Yeshua here in that they were not righteous enough. It wasn't their righteousness that earned them this thing. It was a promise that was made. We are going to get what we get because of a promise that was made. Because that promise included all the generations after Abraham was promised how he would be the father of many goyim, of many nations, etc. It even says in the New Testament, we read about Yeshua saying it and Paul saying, etc., how we would be children of Abraham, the seed of Isaac, as we go through, children of promise. Again, that phrase, children of promise. So that goes back also to Deuteronomy 9 here. That's because of promises. But the only people who got to enjoy the promises were the ones who guarded, did. They heard it, they guarded, they did it. Hear it, guard it, do it. And by guard means when someone says, hey, I'd like to bring some pork in your house, you're standing there with your rifle. Nope. You're on guard duty. Hey, I need you to come work on Saturday. Nope. Okay, you're on guard duty. Watch over these commandments. That's not for you to watch over how I keep them or your friend keeps them. No, watch over how you keep them. Okay? Next question.
Just to clarify, that was a shotgun.
I'm sorry, I meant shotgun. What do I know? I grew up in New York where I wasn't even allowed to point my finger. Okay.
Renee Bushong, 9:18. He did not eat or drink for 40 days and 40 nights.
Okay, wait, can I do something like a something?
There you go.
Okay.
Winchester, I like that.
Winchester? Okay, well then we can get the rifle going.
Renee Bushong, 9:18.
All right.
He didn't eat or drink for 40 days and 40 nights because of all your sins. Is he fasting for their sin? And can you explain fasting for our lives today?
Okay, so you got to understand that fasting, and we don't have time to get into it here, but fasting is a part of the drawing closer to. And he knew because the people had sinned and messed up so bad. Remember, he broke the tablets here, and he fell before Yahweh because of the stuff they did, because he needed to get as close as he could, because he was about to appeal in a strong way for Yahweh not to wipe everybody out. Okay? Everybody knew they messed up. He especially knew they messed up, and he knew what Yahweh was likely to do. And so he fasted, because fasting is a way of drawing close. That's my quick answer. Okay?
Shequez, Deuteronomy 9:10. What does it mean that it was written with the finger of Elohim?
Didn't you watch the movie? No. You don't think Cecil B. DeMille understood? Okay. I don't know what it means literally. It simply says that so you have to understand that Yahweh wrote it. Okay. What was it, 9:10? Is that what you said?
9:10, correct.
Look, he's using a phraseology, whether it's literal or not, to say Yahweh himself wrote these things so that you don't think I wrote them. Because a lot of the problem was that people were thinking, well, Moses, how do we know you're not just making all this stuff up and you're not setting yourself up as a king and this and that and whatever, okay? And he's saying, look, Yahweh wrote this stuff with his own hand. What did that look like? I don't know. Maybe it was sort of a, whatever special effects that we see in the movies. But basically, he's trying to use a phrase to say, Yahweh wrote it, I didn't. Okay? That's the point.
All right, Renee Bouchon, 9:26. Your people and your inheritance. Were those people his inheritance? Are we his inheritance? Or does the and insinuate that there is something else that is his inheritance?
No, I think he's talking about the same thing. The people being his inheritance. Okay.
Randy Baker, Deuteronomy 10:1. Is this a different ark than the one that was put in the tabernacle?
No, this is the one.
All right, Angela, Deuteronomy 10:4. 10 words. Why was it translated this way? Was it different in the original Hebrew?
Deuteronomy what?
10:4. Meaning 10 words instead of 10 commandments?
You'd have to go and look in the Hebrew to see how it's worded in both places. I mean, we're so used to calling them the 10 commandments. In the Hebrew, it actually says the 10 words. Okay?
Ian Taylor, comment, Deuteronomy 10:16. He tells us to circumcise the foreskin of our hearts. He doesn't say he'll do it for us. All my desires that don't align with his must be removed by intention and persistence. Shequez Lee, Deuteronomy 10:8-19. Would the sojourner here be the ger, proselyte, convert?
Yes. Okay, and also what you got to remember is when it talks about the circumcising of heart, remind all of your Christian friends that circumcision of heart was always required. Because they will argue with you, well, there was circumcision of flesh back then, now it's heart. No, it was always both. Okay, so they'll forget that this verse exists. There's also the same thing said in Leviticus as well, about circumcising the heart in other places. That has never been apart from the whole circumcision idea. Heart and flesh, both. Okay?
Last two questions. Olivier and Janet Hoffman, Deuteronomy 10:18. How do we take care of the widows and the fatherless other than the third tithe? Could this also be honored outside the congregation like extended family members?
Okay, so in the context of I'm sorry, I just had to read the verse before. So this is, in the context of 17 and 18, it's Yahweh that's doing this. Okay, so if Yahweh's doing it, it generally means that he's doing it through the physical structure that he puts in place. So the third tithe was given to the Levites distributed it to the poor. Okay, we do have our own ways of taking care of the poor, like leaving the corners of the fields for gleaning and that kind of thing. Of course, nowadays most people don't have a field, but we could take these things and bring that awareness to the leadership that there might be someone in need and the leadership can help. This is really important too, because you, the leadership as well, but more likely you than the leadership, since the leadership has more experience at this, are likely to be taken advantage of by someone who you are going to be codependenting or enabling instead of actually helping correctly. Some people should not be given because that's the way they're not learning their lessons. There is a need sometimes to make sure that they have to talk to leadership to get the guidance and the help they need. So let leadership deal with it, but if you're not sure leadership's aware of it, bring it to our attention. Okay? But it says here, for Yahweh your Elohim is the Elohim of mighty ones, master of masters, the great El, mighty and awesome, who shows no partiality and takes a bribe. He executes right ruling for the fatherless and the widow and loves the stranger, giving him food and a garment. Yahweh's doing that. Okay? So that's not an instruction to you. Now, that's not to say that if you see a need, like Yeshua says, if you see your brother naked or hungry or thirsty, then you might give to them, then give to them. But this is not necessarily just talking about tithing, just help them out. Tithing is only the beginning of things. Doesn't mean you only have to use your tithe to help people. Help them out. Give them the shirt off your back, as they say. Do what you need to do. Take care of them. Well, I don't have the finances for that. Well, then you got to figure out why you don't have the finances for that, because he says that you should be able to help people. So then come in to get help and figure out why you don't have the finances for that. Okay, go ahead, next.
Last one, Pete Lamb, 11:1. What is my charge? It's also mentioned in Bereshith 26:5.
Yeah, I mean, this is just going to the 3 or 4 different words that Yahweh uses for his instructions, okay? So I don't have them in front of me to give you all the different ways of going, but you've got the chukim, and you've got the shoftim, and you've got judgments, you've got right rulings, you've got the laws, like what we say, the Torah. We've got all these different words for these types of laws. Just like we have statutes, we have ordinances in our government laws, right? We have laws, ordinances, statutes, etc. So there's different types of laws, and this just covers the different types. Okay, so it's translating into English that there are several different types of laws. Okay? All right, that's it? All right, let's see if I got anything else in here. Probably do, but it doesn't matter. We can skip it. Let's just see if there's anything important. No, I think you guys covered it pretty good. So we'll leave whatever I have in my notes out. I think that was a pretty good session. Good job, everyone. All right, who wants to go ahead and close us in prayer? Apparently Gabriel does it. He's running to the camera. No, I'm kidding. Okay. Okay, Owen wants to do it. He's got his hand up. Owen, just kind of get over there by Manny. He's going to come to you. You can keep the camera there. He's coming that way. Make it easier. Don't throw him the mic. Both Marty and I will both be upset. All right. Owen's going to go ahead and close us in prayer.
Father, thank you for allowing us to hear from you through your word, as it is explained by your teacher, our anointed, appointed. Father, we pray, Father, humbly request that you would please move us to teshuvah, Father, in areas of our lives that we are failing, especially in the submission to the structure, Father. Submission to each other in our home, and help us as men take our roles, and as our brides, Father, women take their roles as well, that we might give a good example, Father, to our children, Father, and they might not have to endure many of the trials and unnecessary troubles that we underwent, Father, because of lack of instruction. We pray, Father, for our anointed, appointed, that you will give him comfort tonight, Father, and he will rest well, Father, and replenish his energy, Father, as he comes and leads this flock, Father, from where we are, which is a mess, Father, all the way to the kingdom door, Father. We love Rabbi Steve, Father, and his household, Father, and leadership, Father. Thank you for giving us people, Father, that would care for us and that would do their utmost, Father, to not only help those who are here in this building, but also in the live stream, Father. And help us all, Father, be transformed and conformed into the image of Yeshua. And in his name we say, Amen, ve'amen.
Amen. I mean, look, I know we didn't talk about it a whole lot, but if you guys can focus on understanding Deuteronomy 8:2 and 10:12, you'll understand the whole picture. Okay? If you can figure out what the fullness of what he's talking about in those two sections, everything should all fit into that. Okay, if anybody wants to be on camera, come up here. We're going to do wave everybody goodbye. All right, so let us know who's not on the camera. Okay, Tricia, and then we got to move everybody a little closer on this side. We good? Still no?
Yeah. Wait for Chuck. All right.
We're good now. All right, so we'll get on 3. We're going to say, what are we going to say? It's not Shabbat anymore. We're going to say, Laila Tov for good night. Shavua Tov, have a good week. And then we'll tell them we love them. All right, ready? Here we go.